Trek Vegas 21, social experiment or time anomaly? Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, actually, it's a Trekland Third Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here through the heart of Portal 47, all the way through Trekland. Hey, to bring you some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Well, we're back on Tuesday. We are here. We're clear. And yes, we did survive Star Trek Las Vegas. It's still STLV. And some insights, some weird insights. Listen, I do want to thank all of our regular Patreons. Okay, we'll get back to them in a little bit, but thanks, folks, for doing that. We've got a lot to get to today. I'm going to talk about my thoughts and reflections as I recover from STLV. A lot of the fandom around the world was curious how it would go. A lot of the fandom was sad not to be there, out either an abundance of caution or an abundance of laws, or both. But we're going to get to that. Hey, if you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, if I just met you last weekend, thank you for finding me here on Tuesdays. I know in the States this is work days and not always easy to get to when you're live, but it will be posted later. But thanks for coming by. This is also a third Tuesday, and every third Tuesday of the month, I have a 24-hour flash deal out of Trekland. This month, it's not so much a hot deal as an extension of a live deal. So I'll have more about that in just a second. But look, there's been so much anticipation about how STLV would go down with COVID, of course, with so many fans unable to attend through laws, even Canada and adjoining Mexico, much less Europe, Australia. That's probably a fifth of all the fans who normally attend. I had been predicting that the attendance would be maybe half, given that, because so many fans, for several reasons, didn't want to go. They either did not want to have to mask up as Clark County was spiking, which seemed like madness to a lot of people, but hey, you're looking to the guy who with his wife were guests at a convention 9 days after 9/11 in Europe. I know. It went on, and so did we. You had fans not coming because of their own concerns about safety in the middle of a spike. You had people not coming because they just didn't want to do, they didn't want the con experience masked. They knew they needed to, they just didn't want to have to put up with it, either because it was a pain or they thought it would be artificial. And I get that. And then, of course, we have a slender slice of real Star Trek fandom, the fandom that supports people like Spock and Data. Spock, do something. Most people were fine to comply with mask laws because they have a point. They're based in science. Now, the science might still be in a learning process, but the best available analysis, Spock, is what we were going with. And 99% of the folks there had no problems. We had people who weren't vaccinated who were getting testing on site right at the front gate. And within, I don't know, a few minutes, an hour or two, you could get a positive, negative test. And you were banded. Oh, look at this. I'm still banded. Orange. This was my exhibitor band, which overrode, we had a table, much and being a guest. But this orange or yellow band meant that you were vaccinated and had shown proof when you first came in. If you were not vaccinated already, fully vaccinated, if you opted out to just be tested, you had to do it twice. You had to do within 3 days. So if you were a firstie, if you stayed the whole week, you had to retest, show a test either there or nearest Walgreens or CVS on Friday again. And they had it very efficiently set up. It was amazing. If you were walking through the front gate, there would typically be at any time of day 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 people sitting around waiting for their test results to come back. So overall, even with half numbers, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people overall, but it gave everybody else a subtle little furtive glance down to see if it was someone they didn't know. We're all looking around to see a yellow or an orange band. That's basically the vaccination proof card that people are so up in arms about. It's what you do to ensure the safety of the most. I guess you might say it's looking out for the needs of the many, outweighing the needs of the one or the few. You might say that. But given that, during the day, People were fine to comply. Yes, it got hot inside. Of course, it was air conditioned inside. I think the air conditioning was struggling. It was a cool wave in Vegas. It wasn't into the 110, 115 range. It rarely got above 105 for the highs. Of course, if you were inside, that wasn't an issue. But I say time anomaly or social experiment. The social experiment was that it happened. Now, and you can hear my voice. Maybe in a day or two or three or four or five, I'm personally getting a test on Friday. I'm waiting 5 days till we got back yesterday. I'm waiting 5 days to get tested just to make sure that I'm not asymptomatic and that I'm a carrier. Better half is on a road trip that she'd already planned, and she's out. So it's not an issue right now until that happens. I've got no reason to think so, but we'll see just to make sure. Science. Thank you, Thomas Dolby. So for the social experiment, people complied. Now at night at the bars, when people are, drinking every other second, there was a lot of masking. Tuesday night for our landing party, which is Con Eve, which has been an 11-year tradition now. Well, 12 years, but 11 times. We had great nervous compliance on Tuesday. People were thrilled to see each other. Of course, you can't get around that. People all found each other out, especially at the beginning. If you hadn't seen somebody in 2 years or longer, the urge to hug was there, but people were pretty much walking up. I got in the habit of kind of going, what is your degree of comfort zone? And everybody let you know. And that was wonderful to have Star Trek fans who were pretty much standing their ground in a happy way. But everybody found their own way to do what their comfort zone was, and for the person they were greeting to be reflective of that. So at the nitty grittiest, yeah, everybody, masks were everywhere, less so at night in the bars, and bars where there was mixing, even people who had been lobby conning, you know that term? Where you can't afford a ticket or you refuse to buy a ticket, and you sit in the lobby of the hotel and you watch the fans and the guests come and go and sometimes sidle up to them at the bar without ever paying for a ticket. That's lobby conning from the old days, from the one hotel convention days, old school. But it's still a term that applies. If you know the real, the open-ended, more sit-down, relaxed, loungy, but no walls, iBar was not open until Friday night. It was a welcome relief, but Creation and the Rio came through facilities-wise. They had the All-American Grill, what I called it, the Rio Denny's, was open. The Hash House was open only in mornings only, which was kind of the morning diner brunch area. The Sports Deli was open overnight, which was a welcome relief. The good old Smash Burger was open, but closing at 10. The biggest frustration was the FedEx print shop office was closed. Totally blew us out of the water Tuesday night. We didn't have paper questions for our trivia teams, which meant we did it orally, which was bizarre because we don't do bar trivia. We don't do pub trivia for landing party. You're in teams, you get organized, you have a sheet of 15 questions, you have 20 minutes, and then we grade them, and then you're out. So we had to adapt, but everybody was there. Landing party itself, I was taking a poll, took pictures. I think it was about, we were saying 20, 25% of normal. We think we had about 60, 80 people rather than 200. And it made me wonder if that percentage gap would maintain through the con. It actually closed somewhat after that. I think we did get up to half-ish con attendance. Now, here's the thing. As a social experiment, given 2 or 3 anomalies, people were pretty compliant, mask-wise, especially in the convention areas. Again, less so at night. The Roddenberry stage was, oh my God, it was so great to have the Roddenberry stage back. My colleagues, John and Jessica, did an awesome job with the morning show, increasingly earlier, 9 a.m. I did the morning show at 9 a.m. Saturday. Oh my God. But we did it. They recapped, they previewed, they had guests. It was like morning local TV talk shows where the 2 news anchors get up off the news desk at the end and go over and interview folks. There was an intimacy to the panels that followed that all day long. I had the pleasure of doing a couple of those, especially one on Sunday I'll tell you about. They were full. And if they weren't full at the beginning of the hour, they would always fill up with the bar round tables in the back. Yes, with liquor and snacks there at Jimmy's Place, rebranded from Quarks. Because, yes, people were curious about what this would look like as an unlicensed con. The time anomaly struck me on 2 levels. Everyone I talked to mentioned this. It's how I felt. It was the fastest blur of a Star Trek 5-day Vegas con I could ever remember. At the same time, every minute of the day felt like slow motion. Now, figure that one out, Data. I can't explain it, but it's what it was. Everybody felt like we were going in slow motion. I guess feeling like, whether it was really a burden or not, the extra masking, all the extra hoops we were jumping through, the extra precautions, the print shop not being open, having to go off-site to get any kind of printing done and throwing you behind. Okay, enough about me. There was enough happening that way, and some things being canceled, karaoke being canceled. And we were talking about fans canceling. A lot of the guests, for whatever reason, were canceling. And people were canceling right up until Jerry Ryan had work on Picard and had to cancel the night before her live appearance. Couldn't do the plane in. But several people, taking advantage of our technology the last year, Zooming, some of the live panels on the big screens featured folks bopping in. Jerry popped in to the Voyager panel that otherwise had Robert Beltran and Roxanne and Garrett. I know, the Voyager, their poor delayed anniversary. And I saw some people complaining about this. The poor Enterprise, should have been 20th anniversary, was almost nowhere to be seen. And a lot of people felt like the Enterprise bunch, with Connor and Dominic and John Billingsley there, and Anthony, was a little swept under the rug a little bit. We'll have a year to work on that. It was just a crazy thing. Our friend Stephanie there at Creation could not get the schedule out until the Monday at 10 p.m. before the con, which threw a lot of us behind. But it was unavoidable. People were dropping out. Things were being rejuggled. Themes were being rejuggled. One thing, villains became guest stars panel, whatever. You know, so much was unavoidable and yet trooped on. The time distillation, the time vortex, the time anomaly was as much about real time, the fastest blur, the fastest Sunday ever, to that blur, that running through molasses, that slowest feeling ever. Cross with, it felt like, with the lower numbers, with everything taken down a notch, taken definitely to pre-50th anniversary levels of madness, of intensity, it felt like more intimate. We certainly had that with the Roddenberry stage, but everywhere, more intimacy, fewer numbers, but not a drop-off in quality. The highlight of the weekend for me was finally, after a couple of times not in person personally, falling through, but getting to see Jerry Taylor finally on stage, and the Voyager doc and friend Lolita, her former employee. Her other former employee, my wife Janet, didn't get to see her because Janet opted to stay home, which was a heartache. But it was so wonderful to see Jerry on stage and answering questions and talking about Janeway and talking about her impact on Next Generation, much less on co-creating Voyager and answering questions. And they were all but one. One person got lost in the timeline of Star Trek production, thought Jerry was there for Pulaski. That was 3 years later. But it was just wonderful. That was the one thing I did see on stage because it was a blur to me. Feeling like, though, the intimacy, the numbers, the less crunch, felt like we'd indeed gone back in time 15 years. It felt like the late aughts. And that's what I try to convey to people. Creations Vegas had been licensed, had been a licensed convention almost since the beginning. It's only been since about 2013 when CBS starts reacting to the way the other franchises and studios are looking at their unique events and trying to up the game, trying to filter and gatekeep a little bit on exactly what's on stages and where, and even the vendors. So that relaxed a little bit, but there was no less intensity. Someone mentioned that, well, I guess the only news this weekend was about, in case you didn't hear it, Robert Beltran also being a part of Star Trek Prodigy, along with Kate. So the J Sears were swooning a little bit there, the J/Sears. But someone said, I guess that's the only real news that came out of the weekend. And it made me stop and remember the days when no one looked at a convention and considered how much news came out of it. I mean, yeah, announcements, but that stop the presses, stop the digital presses, let's melt down Twitter that kind of marketing news that, you know, San Diego Comic-Con really grew because of the numbers there and the audience, and then spittle over into what could happen at Vegas for Trek itself. That struck me. I hadn't thought of that in ages, and it again reinforced this notion that it was a 2060, 2080 feeling convention. Plenty of tech. Creation's video wall behind the stage was incredible. There was a lot more sophistication. Overcoming COVID has amped everybody's game up. The interactive Roddenberry stage, I should call it, was great for having maybe 200 people in the audience, plus the what I call the balcony of the bar tables behind the bar rounds. People doing questions from way back there. It was like yelling up into a balcony, only they're just a little further back. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It was like a time travel back, a pleasant one. And I was interested to gauge as much as I could the reactions of our veterans to seeing that. The last thing I'll say about this is, despite all of this, despite the COVID, despite the cancellations of fellow fans not being able to attend, despite the dropout cancellations, Discovery's still shooting. Picard's still shooting. A lot of folks professionally working in other ways. And yes, a lot of actors, especially the ones more up the age ladder, a lot of folks just not wanting to chance it with the Delta spike. A lot of folks, I should say, also not signing. All the signing booths look like little bank tellers with the plastic screens that you've seen the last year or so as we come back to live. A lot of our actor friends and other notables signing behind those. A lot of folks not doing public signings at all, coming down for maybe one mass signing one time after an appearance. I got to see Mike and Denise. They opted not to eventually do a public signing, but presented some awesome news about what they're doing with the Roddenberrys. And thank you, getting some of our Trek Files material holo scanned for the ages, getting it out of the paper files, which will be wonderful. Yeah, it was adapting to a changing mood. That was part of that uneasy feeling, like going through swimming through molasses moment at the same time as it being a blur. Our friends Lou and John at Fansets, who waited until the very last minute almost to decide whether they were going, did come and did a huge business. People were so gratified to see them, and vice versa. If you know, there was no Fansets Friday night party with our friends over at Trek Geeks, as has happened the last 3 or 4 years. But I know for one thing, they sold out of the magnetic lower decks badges that they brought. I wanted one at the end, and they were out. So, there were highs and lows, and a lot of folks did very well. A lot of the actors did well with what they expected. And of course, they've been shut out of that income stream. And some of them who have been on the circuit for ages. And it's just a personal note, Trek Vegas 2021 was the finale for my old friend, Joe Bob Williams, who has been dealering, who has been since way back, since the Con of Wrath days and way before. He's featured in the Con of Wrath. You'll see him when we get it done. And yes, we're working on it. And he said 4 or 5 years ago he was going to retire, and then came back. And Sunday afternoon I was by, and Chase Masterson, of all people, was helping him celebrate closing down his last convention. He's been at it since the mid-late 70s. It's amazing. I've said for years that there could be a documentary called Connie's about all the longtime convention vendors, and a lot of them are retiring as things change, as the Comic-Con world kind of blew up. The old school, smallish convention world, those vendors that went from town to town, it's an amazing story. And happy retirement for real, apparently this time, Joe Bob. I'll say that. And yes, we will get you on screen. I promise. I promise. So yes, Vegas, social experiment. Yes. Successful, I would say. Time anomaly? Yes. In some ways that don't even feel like they correlate. But it was. And we're still standing. I guess we'll wait about 5 or 6 days and see if Clark County melts down again, or where folks came and went. It was no Surges motorcycle rally. It was no, you name it, worst case scenario of a place ignoring the best guidance available for dealing with this stupid variant. Those who didn't want to deal with it didn't come. And the rest of us took pains to make it so. And kudos on creation for having infrastructure there to make it so. I had a bug on Saturday. I had a stomach bug. I said something about the next day to Gary Berman. He said, "Did you get tested?" I said, no, it wasn't. It was a 6-8 hour thing. I had to lose all of Saturday personally, which crammed everything up for me. I didn't see as many folks as I wanted to, as I normally would. I lost our Trekland Portal 47 meetup for newbies. But we'll get over it. We'll get over it. I was glad that nothing more serious happened and was able to enjoy Sunday and everything that came after that. So yes, you're going to see photos and video, not as much news, but there's plenty of video out there. All the Roddenberry morning shows with John and Jessica were recorded and taped up there. So there's plenty still live video, fans shooting live video. Look for the match game from Saturday afternoon. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Message Spock. It showed what we can do when we put our mind to it. We just don't want to have to do that again. So, as we say, guys and gals, do all the right things, okay? See? Very unlicensed, but very affiliated as well. 55-year mission Las Vegas. Go to the website. It still says #STLV. Well, that's it, guys. Did I stir anything up? Did I answer any questions? Were any of you there with us at some point over the weekend? Let us know. Share it. I know I'm going to be sharing some more with the Portales tomorrow night, or yes, tomorrow their night. Tomorrow's European Day for Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable. But right now I want to thank, again, all of our folks who helped make this possible, our Patreons in the TTL Club. Blaze K, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, I just saw you. Blake Arledge, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and JL Poole. And our live wires, Rusty Harrell, I just saw you too. Halberd Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Robert McLean, Alan Hohensey, and Casey Shafsky. I miss seeing you, Casey. And then our backup plan for Trek Files, one of the live forums we did, the audio was not presentable for broadcast quality. So last night we scrambled, and the Trek Files special that you've got overnight today, it was as of last night, but still very much from the heart, and still very much, if you know Trek Files, and if you don't, you can find us at podcast.roddenberry.com. New Roddenberry podcasts coming. Some of them sci-fi adjacent, Star Trek adjacent, but all your favorites are there and some new ones too. Trek Files is there. Our documents, our actual files, at our home on Facebook. Alrighty. A personal mention about something that's happening in 2 days. Yes, it's the actual centennial of Gene's birth. This was very much a theme all through Vegas. Wonderful. Roddenberry, everybody at Roddenberry, Rod, Trevor, my friend Claire Kramer, who heads up all the promotion aspects and the PR and social media for Roddenberry. They all did a wonderful job arranging for a quote wall panel all the length of the main corridor at the con area. Folks, they auctioned off the large, huge, different on foam core board photos of Gene. People took those. The quotes you've been seeing online with famous Star Trek related folks. I think Whoopi was yesterday or today. Those all up in panels. Some of the announcements pertaining to this. COVID totally beat down what was possible this year, but we're still presenting the year. Gene's big day, his 100th anniversary of his birth, is in 2 days, August 19th, 1921 to 2021. And the Think Geek program is going to go on for the year. What that also means is that the special fundraiser for the 350.org project fighting climate change and educating folks, and also the Trevor Project, helping it to support, even in crisis situations, the LGBTQ community. Both endeavors being sponsored, being supported by this special Gene Roddenberry shop stands Roddenberry Centennial Collection. It's only up until the 20th, one day past his birthday. So check that out at Shop Stands. I am also looking forward this week to getting back with Dr. Ali on Life Support Live. It'd be great if you could join us and the Lifers community for another live chat like this. We are Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek. One of us is a real doctor, going boldly through uncertain times. We haven't picked this week's theme yet. Maybe you can help us. Go over to the page, the Facebook group. Check out what we're talking about over there, what the lifers are talking about. But join us live if you can. And if not, check it out later. It's also a podcast if you can just want to audibilize it. Love to have you with us some week. live or later. Hey, it's mainly Larry Nemecek's Trekland. If you're with me on Facebook, that's the Instagram, soon to be the renamed YouTube channel. But for now, it's Larry Nemecek on Twitter. Portal47.net. Again, you can go look at the page, but don't use the button there. Just get in touch with me and say you want the extended STLV con schedule. Alrighty? Hey, I am going to call it there. If you're YouTubing with me only later, please, 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 we're not out of the woods yet here. Please stay safe, do all the things. And please stay woke, check your sources. Don't be fooled, stay open-minded. Most of all, trek well, everybody.